Welcome to the No Idea Zone. I'm Stephen Lolli. All five of you who are so fucking lonely that this is all you have in your life. You've joined us. You're here. It's me, my Chicago Bear cap, my guest, and my Jergens hand lotion that is back there. I make no pretense about needing that quite often. There's no humidity out here on the West Coast. I am joined today by a very, very funny gentleman. We've toured together. We've done stand-up. We even took a little road trip together when I was in the Southeast. He's originally from Benton Harbor, Michigan, which I think is really cool that he's given a shout out to his hometown. I think that's so. He currently resides in Tampa, Florida, and looks like, I mean, from the looks of the Zoom conference call here, he's in the middle of To Kill a Mockingbird set.
Yes.
We want to give a big shout out to writer and comedian and very clever fellow, very smart and clever, funny dude, my buddy Clark Brooks. Hey, Clark.
Hello, Stephen. Thank you for having me on this lonely laundry room-based podcast.
Wonderful. We'll get to the laundry room in a second because it's perfect time, a perfect moment for me to introduce my next guest who just logged in with us, who just tuned in with us. Another very smart, funny fellow. Can you hear me, brother?
I can hear you. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm just going to improvise this intro because I don't have your intro in front of me because that's how professionally I take this show. I want the people out there to know this is what this is. It's a way for me to pass the time. It's a very great gift and blessing. And I'm blessed to have my friend, my Comedy Store compatriot, who I was hanging out with at the Comedy Store for several months. It was the opening act. I don't know if this is still going on, but he was the opening act, one of the opening acts for the great Cat Williams. And he is also a writer and a stand-up, and man, just a all-around cool dude. And I think he's coming to you from are you in Inglewood?
No, I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay.
But it doesn't make any difference. It's all the same.
He's in South LA. My brother, Big Weezy. How you doing, Weezy?
I'm doing fine, Stephen, man. Fantastic. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I was looking for my glasses. I always time everything. You know what I'm saying? I always time everything, and I'm like, because, we're in Hollywood. I'm like, okay, 2 minutes. And, it's 10:50. Okay, I got 2 minutes. And all of a sudden, I can't find my glasses, but I found my shades. And I'm like, well, shit, I could wear the shades and then do the cool thing. And I said, no, I got to find my glasses. Then I finally find them. And next thing you know, it's like 11:02. And I'm like, well, hell, he knew I was going to be late from the get-go.
Well, you know what, Weezy? I want to just say, I want to give you a compliment on the hat you're wearing. And Clark has some hats. We'll get into this because this might be a good topic of subject away from heavy things.
Yes.
That hat is very similar to a $10 hat that I got at CVS a few years ago.
Oh, my goodness.
And
I need to go to CVS and see if they have a 2X $10 hat, because I'm tired of paying $40, $50, or $60 for a hat. It's ridiculous. They always charge fat people extra for the extra material, not taking in mind that the little small people balance it out. Why should I pay more? So if you got a hat for $10, I got
2 of them. I bought 2 of them. They looked exactly like that. And I had a black, it was in January, so it was cold, and I had a black slicker, like a black leather long jacket, and I wore a white tie. Man, I looked like, I had a little gangster thing going on for a minute.
That's what I'm doing. Yes.
Speaking of hats, the last time I saw Clark, he had a Cotton Club purple. What was that fedora you had? That was very precious to you. You weren't going to let anyone wear that.
Yeah, that's I like that look. I like looking at the old photos, like in the 30s and 40s when guys would dress up to ride the bus or go to a ball game or something.
He's right.
But you know, all you can do now is wear the hats. You know, you couldn't do that. You couldn't wear a suit to the Greyhound station without people thinking you're a contract killer or something. So,
but also, you're in humidity about 9 months a year. Nobody wants to be dressed like.
No.
And people did dress like that in the old days. Probably in the humidity, they were dressing like the Cubans down there were dressing like that.
Yeah, the Cubans back, the cigar factory workers would show up, you know, decked out nicer than people who show up to see, you know, Broadway stage plays that are traveling down here. So, and certainly comedy clubs. Nobody dresses up to go to a comedy club down here. So,
and you know, it's so funny because Clark is right, because you know my mom's from Cuba. And right, and you know, your area is right. A hop, skip, and a jump away, and it's always humid. But you're right, man. Those I mean, I had to dress up every day in white shoes. It was crazy.
Yeah, and you still see old guys here, and they hang out in front of the Cuban restaurants, and I'm pretty sure their job is arguing with each other because that's all they do.
Well, no, Cubans just naturally talk loud.
Yeah.
I mean, even when they see each other, like, hey, oh, I'm telling you, I used to walk out of my room when the Cubans were over, and on Sundays, well, you know, visiting my mother, she had all these people, and every Sunday the Cubans would come over, and you think they're arguing, but they're having a great freaking time.
Yeah. They're like, why are they angry? They're not.
No, if a Cuban's angry, they're silent. You know what would be a great horror or serial killer movie would be The Quiet Cuban.
Quiet Cuban. It would sell tickets in Tampa, that's for sure.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
We don't have too many Cubans in LA, Weezy.
Well, you know, there actually is a
beside you.
There's quite a few. We just don't have a portion of the city named after us. You know, like in LA, you can go to Little Italy, Little Hanoi, Little Vietnam, Little Korea, all of these things, Koreatown, as you know, but there is no Little Cuba for whatever reason, you know, but
there's even a Little Armenia out here.
Absolutely. In this Little Army where they grow hair. So it's just, you know.
That was where I first landed when I moved to LA, was Little Armenia.
Wow. That had to be crazy, bro.
What was crazy about it was it's right next to Los Feliz. So you have all the art gallery, gift shop, white people. They weren't called hipsters at that time. All the, you know, white people with the notebooks and the coffee shops right next to the Little Armenia, which is like Nouveau Russian tracksuits and, you know, and like 5-year-old Mercedes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody looks as good in a Mercedes as an Armenian person.
No, man.
Mercedes and caddies.
Nobody has like front businesses for crime like Armenians do, man. I mean, I don't know anyone who goes into those Armenian restaurants.
I always tell all my friends, when I wash my money, I wash it with the Armenians.
You know what would be this is a good little tangent before we get away from hats and Cubans and everything, because I do want to.
Speaking of hat.
Yeah, speaking of hat.
To interrupt, we almost glossed over the fact that Stephen Lolli is the kind of guy who shops for hats at CVS.
I want I want all 17 people who watch this to know that.
No, I didn't gloss over it, Clark. The one thing I learned from working with Kat is if you gloss over something and don't acknowledge it, you can't make it bigger than what it should be. I just didn't want people to, we just didn't want them to think that, oh my God, Steven's shopping for hats at CVS. I got to run to CVS and buy hats now because he's my idol. He's the guy that I follow, right?
All right.
Because I don't have anybody getting fat just like me. So
let me clear this up. Let me clear this up because I'm being taken out of context and framed in an unfair light here. I was at CVS and I happened upon some hats and I went, those aren't bad looking hats. And then I tried one on which fit me and I went, how much are these? They're $10? I just happened to make an impulse purchase. I didn't go to CVS looking for hats. I wasn't asking around the community, hey, where can I find some inexpensive hats?
Well, this is how this works, Clark. I believe his story has validity to it because I had the same situation. I'm driving a week ago on, it's a Thursday afternoon. I look over at the McDonald's and there's a sign in the window that says filet of fish, $2 every day. I didn't go out looking for filet of fish that day. It just happened to be a filet of fish sandwich day for $2. I immediately made an illegal left turn, didn't even get into the drive-through line, Clark. I parked in space number 2. I mobile ordered so that way I can get a large French fry for $1 because that was my deal of the day from McDonald's. And therefore, I ended up getting a filet of fish sandwich with extra cheese on it for an additional 20 cents. I got a large McDonald's French fry, which is more commonly known as the super size, and a large Diet Dr. Pepper so I could maintain my figure for $4.78 that day. So his story about impulse buying and getting a hat is extremely possible because you just heard the same thing happen with me with a filet of fish sandwich. So I believe you.
If I had to take this into court and defend myself, Weezy, you would be my star witness. Character witness. You would be a character witness.
Explaining how impulse buying can happen to anyone.
Oh, how it could happen to a broke person.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing,
So
what I'm hearing is for less than $20, I can upgrade my wardrobe and get an excellent meal, and come away with change. What am I? How am I living my life up to this point?
Clark, do you have a CVS next to a McDonald's down there?
I think we have a CVS on every third corner, and every second corner has a Walgreens, and of course there's McDonald's everywhere. So yeah, I'm sure there's a CVS next to me.
They closed the Museum of Science and Industry and opened a CVS and a McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's it.
That's Florida, man.
Priority.
Listen, oh man. So yeah, hats, Cubans. I do want to say this because the reason Clark and I met was because I was down in Florida for a comedy thing, but the reason I would go to Florida to begin with is because my parents moved to Florida, and I actually went to high school there. So we're talking like the late 1980s, early 90s. And I will tell you this, in the late night, I don't know, Clark, were you down there then? Or were you still in Michigan?
I've been here since 86.
Okay, so in the late 80s, early 90s, Black people dominated American culture so universally that even the Puerto Ricans and the Cubans were pretending to be Black.
Yeah.
Right.
In that time. And even the guys that I went to school with, because there's also a redneck contingent of redneck down there. Those guys were also pretending to be Black. All the guys who I see on their Facebook profiles with their camouflage and their I'm protesting not being able to go to the beach, mall, and stockbroker information and golfing, all wanted to be Eddie Murphy. Every single one of those motherfuckers.
And that's exactly true. I'm still pretending to be Black. I've been
You're doing a good job, actually.
I've been pulling this bullshit off, man, ever since I was 7, maybe 8 months old. So it's not easy, but
I wonder if you go down where Clark is, if the Cubans would accept you, if they would take you on your word.
And it's a possibility that they would, but even if they didn't, I've been pulling off being Black so well that I could still blend in that fashion. My only problem is I just don't really have the Black accent, and I have to work on that. I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror and I'm like, what's up? What's up? What's up?
Let's call that the Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
You know what the problem? The problem is you need to hang around with more white people, and you would pick it up like that.
I'm telling you, there's nothing more gratifying than a white woman who's dated a Black man for a long time and then comes out talking like a Black woman.
Yeah. But not in front of other Black women, though. They wouldn't try to pull that off because they're smart. So,
well, no, I know.
Stevie, you know what I remember from that period you were mentioning, though? That people of all cultures were wearing you remember the pendants, the medallions with Africa in the green, red, and yellow?
Right
and they
around
had like
the
a leather
time.
lanyard.
Right around
That
the
and
time
a high
Malcolm
top
X.
fade.
Right.
Yeah.
The Kid and Play.
Yeah.
The house party.
Well, maybe more like De La Soul. Yeah, but the house party. Yeah.
I don't think they wanted
haircut.
it. Probably they meant it to be De La Soul, and it ended up looking like House Party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The black. I remember the African medallion right around the time Malcolm X came out, and I remember very vividly a shift in the culture when Do the Right Thing came out.
Yeah.
When Do the Right Thing came out, and I don't mean I mean like kids pretending to want to be black and their parents being terrified. Like the parents were. It was specifically probably being administered. It was cool, but it was being administered because the parents didn't like it too much. That's what I remember.
Well, I think it was hip hop was embraced kind of as a fashion, and people thought it was going to be like, oh, this is what we're wearing for 2 or 3 years, and they underestimated the fact that it's actually a culture. And like, so now people almost have come to resent it. Like, we were doing that in the 80s. Like, stop it. But
I'm going to take. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Clark. I didn't mean to step.
Go ahead. I was done.
I'm going to tell you what really fascinates me. I'll never forget. I was probably in my 20s. This was as far as I'm concerned, this was this started it all. Katie Couric said a phrase on the morning show, "You go, girl." And people were a little shocked and taken back. Now you have heads of state. All right. The president of the United States says, he's in a press conference saying, I want to give a shout out.
Yeah.
If you don't, the significance of that and the way that the hip hop culture language has infiltrated the Queen's language in our country, and it has become a standard way of speaking.
Yeah.
It blows my mind because my father and my mother's second husband, my stepfather, not her third husband, because, he was a fool, but they would be turning over in their graves. I speak the way I do because my father would not allow us to speak, as he used to call it, any street slang in the house at all. I never forget the day I got my ass kicked for calling my brother a hypocrite. My father, we were driving down the street. He elbowed me in the chest. I turned to my brother. I was sitting. He was in the
Why
front
hypocrite?
seat.
Why the word hypocrite? How's that street slang?
I'm going to tell you. Because my brother's in the front seat. I'm in the back seat, but I have my chin on the front seat back bench because, we didn't wear seatbelts in those days. And I just turned to my brother and I said, "You're a hypocrite." My father just elbows me in the chops. And he's like, "Where did you learn that word?" And I said, "I saw it on television." He goes, "You don't repeat words that you see on television, son, unless you know what they mean and how they're defined. All right? Your brother is not a hypocrite." And what happened is my father did not allow us to call each other names. We had to speak. We had to say good morning. Everything was freaking cordial, no matter what. I don't care what happened the day before. You woke up like it was a brand new day and the day prior never occurred. All right. And that's why I speak the way that I do, because that's how my father was when we were growing up. Could not bring that ghetto slang into the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Cat talks like that too.
Of course he does.
That's why that's one of the reasons that he liked you.
Yeah, people don't, when I tell people that when we speak, as a matter of fact, there are a lot, Lil Wayne speaks that way. There are a lot of, as you know, Stephen, celebrities that when they're doing their business or whatever they need to do it in a certain fashion that we've that we, normally do when we're doing business. And it's just not unusual. But when you're playing to the fans and the masses, like I say, when those front doors open, you have to put on your personality. You got to put on what got you where you got you there. And that's it. Because if Cat was really a pimp, I'd have more homes.
I used to manage a movie theater down in Sarasota, and we had a film festival one time, and the guest of honor was Rosie Perez. Now, everybody knows Rosie's personal, her persona as ditzy, and she had to come into our office and use the phone, and she got on the phone, was handling some business, and I'm like, this is not a ditzy person at all. So that was the perfect example of somebody with their, the juxtaposition of the public persona and the actual person. So
and it's so funny. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Okay, I just want to say this really quickly. Clark has had some really interesting jobs, and I was wondering, Clark, if you might be able to rattle off the quick list of your jobs that you've had, the most bizarre and interesting.
In no particular order, I managed a movie theater. I was a mascot's bodyguard for a Major League Baseball team. Let's see, I've cooked, I've waited tables, I've done stand-up comedy.
You drove hookers.
I drove, I was muscle and transportation for a high-priced call girl. Yeah. The bodyguard thing and the call girl thing are probably the two ends of the spectrum.
Did you have a good hat when you would do that job?
Oh yeah, I wore I looked like Robert De Niro when I did that. That's how I pictured myself, because I would drop her off and then go find a place to drink coffee and be all jaded by the world, while I waited for her to call me.
So Robert De Niro from Taxi Driver, or like Robert De Niro from like Midnight Run? What?
Yeah, more like Midnight Run. Yeah, more world weary and
Right. Jack.
Yeah.
Why'd you leave the Chicago Police Department, Jack?
Right.
Okay. Bounty hunter Robert De Niro.
It's funny. It's funny that Clark would mention that, because about 3 years ago, I used to go to the beach every day. We're down to the beach every day for like an hour and a half. And one day there's this lady who happens to be sitting on the bench I sit on all the time. So I sit on the bench, and we strike up a conversation and all of that. And after about a month or two go by of us seeing each other on the bench and, having lunch a couple of times, and she was always flush with cash, I find out she's a call girl.
Yeah.
And she had asked me if I wouldn't mind driving her, And,
you got the look. Definitely. Yeah, you'd be excellent.
Right. That's what, but I started thinking, fuck, I can't run. If you're going to bodyguard somebody, you got to be able to run, right? And I haven't run since the 3rd grade. I don't even remember what that feels like. And I might trip and fall. So I had to turn the job down. So I'm glad I met someone who did that job, Clark. Thank you.
I was probably closer to Lavelle Crawford in Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad as far as bodyguard.
Yeah, you couldn't run either. You took the
Lavelle
job
Crawford
anyway.
hasn't run since 3rd grade either. Yeah.
Yeah, but I could play a bodyguard like Lavelle did. I mean, Dante,
that's all it is.
Yeah, Dante the comedian, he did that movie, Bro, What Happened? And I played his bodyguard in that movie. So, that was easy because I didn't have to I didn't have to run. And if I did, they would have got another fat stunt double to do it.
That's why anyone gets into acting, so they can act out these interesting lives and not have to actually go through the perils of running away from danger.
That's it. So
hey, so was that it, Clark? I kind of stepped on your momentum there with it.
What
about the baseball? You worked in baseball.
Yeah, I worked in minor league baseball for a few years. Got to have that was fun. I could probably write a book about that. But the bodyguard thing for the fuzzy mascot at the Rays games, that was Major League Baseball. Yeah, I covered the National Hockey League for a few years as a journalist. So I've done some stuff. Yeah, I
can tell you firsthand, Weezy, and all of you out there, all you 12 people, 8 of whom are old Jewish women who follow this podcast closely.
Hey! I lived an old Jewish woman.
I lived.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hook me up.
Weezy's available, and so is Clark. East Coast, West Coast. Maybe I could start a dating agency for old Jewish women just through my comedy podcast. If you're interested, email me, lollicomedy@yahoo.com. I will connect you with Clark and Weezy. I'll screen these women and find out how well endowed their bank accounts are. But back to...
I've got the name for your service. It's Plenta of Yentas.
I'm writing it down. Plenta of yentas.
How long's Clark been holding on to that? You know.
That
Yeah,
just
I lived where Clark is, and I can tell you all 13 of you that finding interesting work where he lives is very, very, very difficult. It is a one giant strip mall, that whole city. So the fact that this man has found all of these quirky, bizarre, interesting jobs is kind of an amazing thing. I'm kind of mesmerized by it, to be honest with you.
well, now I'm going to write a book. So
Called what? You've got to have a good title for that.
I just used up my good title of the day, giving it to you.
Well, maybe tomorrow you'll get one.
Yeah.
So Weezy, what's going on with COVID in South LA? How's everybody handling it?
Well, first thing, you know, I don't support the myth that black people can't get the Rona. you know what's so great is that I love it when shit happens, because somebody in the hood, I'm not part of that council that makes these decisions, but there's somebody in the hood that makes these decisions and puts this stuff out. And then there's a faction of black folks that believe it like it's gospel.
Which is what? Give us an idea.
That black people couldn't get the Rona.
Who? All I see in the news is that it's attacking black people more than white people.
But those are the people that don't watch the news because they're getting it from the street. Right?
Who needs the news? Yeah.
Right. But the truth of the matter is, in California, especially in LA, they're doing a tremendous job, Stephen. I mean,
we are doing a good job.
The mayor and the governor. I mean, anyone can get tested now. It's been about 2 weeks where anyone can get tested. You go to covid19.org or whatever it is, just type it in. It's simple. You type
Have you
it in.
Been tested?
Yes. The nigga's negative. I'm negative.
Negative meaning you never had it.
Never had it. And well, it's just negative. There's a different test to find out if you've had it before and have the antibodies.
Well, that's a pretty important one.
Yeah,
I think that is important, but right now, there is a big thing in the country. It started probably about 3 weeks ago, but 2 weeks ago when the first protest hit about reopening the country, there became a little bit of a grassroots swelling of that, and politicians found themselves in a position in which a decision had to be made. So of course they got together, brainstormed, and we came out with this phase 1, phase 2 of reopening and doing things kind of in a slow way in order to appease those people, because quite frankly, this is an election year. But I think that the way that it was being handled, self-sheltering and us staying away, was a good thing. But problem is, and I'm not a conspiracy guy, the problem is you have millionaires in Congress, and most of them are, except for the new people that are just newly elected. So you have millionaires making decisions for regular folks, and
that's been a problem for 40 years. Weezy.
Absolutely. And once they decided that that $1,200 was it, there are people that were happy. I mean, come on. The bottom line is that is a way of silencing you to keep you happy. And they did some other things that are really crazy. The extra $600 a week in unemployment, giving people the incentive not to get back to work, which Republicans are now acknowledging, which I could really care less either way, because my political views or whatever, I never publicly talk about, because it's not important. What's important is what's for the good of all the people. And but quite frankly, in Los Angeles, it's been handled very well, and in the state of California, we're leaders, and so I'm really happy with how it's going.
I read. Okay, so last week, and Clark, I'm going to get to you in a second. Don't go anywhere.
No.
By the way, here's some good news for all the people. Our meeting was just upgraded, which means we can keep talking and will not get cut off. Thank you to the producer, to our technical producer, Graham, for upgrading the meeting, because this is an interesting conversation. So quickly, Weezy, last week, stuff started to open, very minor things, the public paths and trails, which really only affects people like me who live near the beach and can take your bike on a trail or something. But it was a good, hopeful thing, because it's nice to see a few things starting to open up, and it gives people, I think, a little morale. But then I read, or some information came yesterday that they're going to lock down, do a stay-at-home thing till August. What are you hearing, brother? What do you think?
Well, first thing, I'm behind that 100%. I think it should just go on for the rest of the year, but people will be in an uproar. The fact of the matter is, I'm going to go back to the beginning real quickly. I never thought anything needed to be locked down, quite frankly. I didn't think that I'm not happy with the loss of life. My mother lost her husband to the coronavirus just a month ago. I have a cousin who was hospitalized and is on a ventilator now in Washington, D.C. to the coronavirus. So I in no way, shape, or form don't believe that this is a real virus. I believe the problem is that hysteria set in, and that affected our economy. There was a mayor in a small city back east when this started that decided to lock down her city or his city. And in politics, when that happens, everyone else has to follow suit, or they believe that it's going to appear optics-wise that they're not doing anything. And it worked its way all the way up to the White House. Now, I'm the type of guy that I just go with the flow and I enjoy everything. The traffic situation here in LA has been amazing. I haven't seen the 405 like that since 1984, okay? But the problem is that the number of deaths, we're almost at 80,000 in the United States and all these things, it does underscore the seriousness of. So since we have taken this step, then let's continue on the journey and keep it closed down as best possible. I understand the businesses and all of that. Yes.
To redirect this thing to Clark, who's sort of, even though you're on the East Coast, you're sort of in Middle America. What about areas that don't have a high, because a lot of the country don't have a high rate of this coronavirus deaths or cases? I mean, shouldn't those places be able to open up? What do you think, Clark? You're down there in red state land.
Yeah, that's a good question. The biggest thing that I just don't see a rhyme or reason to how stuff is being done. And I would feel more comfortable if I could understand. Everybody says we're doing it in steps. And I drove down one of our major highways the other day, and a Barnes & Noble was closed and shuttered. But across the street, a lingerie store was open, like an adult toy store was open. I don't understand who gets priority as to what is an essential business. And then a couple further blocks down, another adult store was not open. So I don't see, I would feel more comfortable if there was a rhyme or reason. But from what I can tell, the people who want stuff open, they just figure the curve has been flattened, open everything and resume business as normal. And I just don't think that's feasible.
Those people are nuts.
Yeah.
But I also think it's a little like we're going to all have to, it's kind of like we're all going to have to, all of us who have a healthy immune system and can fight this thing off, we're going to have to get this thing at some point, or we're going to have this, it's like chicken pox or whatever, or mono. It's going to have to cycle through.
Isn't the point of flattening the curve so that there is no curve? It's not just like, let's flatten it and start over again. That's like taking, antibiotics for any other illness, and then as the day you feel better, you go back to doing whatever it was that made you sick. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, I mean, I'm speaking from a sense of privilege in that I have an employer that hasn't furloughed any employees. So if I was the owner of a business, I might feel differently. If I was without money, I might feel differently. But God, I just think there's a bigger picture here, and I just think people are just so willing to abandon what seems to have been working, and I was doing a good job to just get back to whatever it was that was, because we can't not do our favorite things for a little while.
Well, one thing is that everybody has their different echo chamber of news and information that they get. So that is a whole other conversation that we could, would be a longer conversation. But like the conspiracy right-wing people who think, I mean, my hair, the guy who cuts my hair was trying to sell me some kind of antiseptic bleach. I'm not kidding. He asked me if I wanted some. He goes, this stuff kills the AIDS virus. And I'm like, And I love the guy. I love the guy, and I really respect the guy. And he does he's a kind, decent person. But I think he's a Trump. He's a guy who's probably listening to Ben
That's some
Shapiro.
hood shit right there. That's some hood shit, Steven. This thing kills AIDS.
He literally said that to me, and I need my hair cut, man. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I love the guy. I really do.
Yeah, of course.
But everybody has different information from different places, and so that on top of, before I get brain farty, that on top of the fact that it is true that things we should get back to normal to a certain degree. Rick Overton said something really profound I want to share with you guys that made me feel better. Well, it's depending on what point of view you're taking it from. The people who are in charge of everything are really fucking stupid. Generally, everybody who's in charge of everything is a moron, and that is part of the reason I think, Clark, why it doesn't seem to have rhyme or reason. And I'll give you a funny metaphor from one of your pieces of humor. When we were driving through your neighborhood, you were like, who the fuck zoned this area? We have a we were driving through. LA doesn't look like that, by the way. You don't have anything in LA that looks like where we were. You were like, there's an adult bookstore next to a church, next to a school, next to a like a
body shop, and then a restaurant, and then a
body
house.
shop.
Yeah,
it's kind of like America's kind of, that's a metaphor for sort of our country and the people who run things, is that zoning.
Steven just described 150th and Central, but
but you know what? I wouldn't even mind that if we could just acknowledge that. If like somebody in charge, and probably the closest is Cuomo in New York saying, "Listen, we don't know what's going on. We're trying to do the best we can, but none of this. Everybody keeps saying it's unprecedented, and that's true. So nobody has to feel like, I don't know why people feel they have to be the expert on it. Like, why can't somebody just honestly say, like, look, we don't know what's going on. This is what we think will work. We're going to give it a shot. But no, everybody has to be the authority on whatever it is they're saying.
Well, for me, Clark, I'm just, for a guy that prays for unusual things, I'm just happy my prayer was answered.
Yeah.
I mean, my prayer was answered, because when this happened and they were talking about the essential businesses, that's how we started this conversation, what's essential, God made that decision, Clark.
Yeah.
I mean, God said, listen, look, for years, I've been making money off you people on Sundays, right? You've been coming in, you've been worshiping, you've been screaming and shouting, or you've been sitting there quietly, and I've been taking 10% of your income because I run this religion shit like the mafia. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer Big Weezy's prayer, and I'm going to make the bitch in the drive-thru essential, and I'm going to close churches. And that's how it worked, Clark. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
So for a guy like me, being able to drive all over town 24 hours a day and get to a drive-thru that's still open, and I am still able to eat the essential meals.
The fast food places are all open, Weezy? Is that because there's no fast food where I live?
They're all
really?
open. Well, because he lives in Marina Del Rey, and where white people actually walk to little cafes where the seats are placed outside on the sidewalk.
I live in a place, first of all, it's Playa del Rey.
Same thing, but Playa del Rey, yeah.
Same thing,
Playa
but like
beach, right?
Marina Del Rey is a little more like Santa Monica. It's a little more money there.
Okay.
Playa del Rey's got a lot of money.
There's a $20,000 to $30,000 difference, really. Right. $10,000 difference in automobiles.
Both of these places are whiter than Hillary Clinton's ass in the wintertime.
Absolutely.
On that note, we're gonna wrap it up. I want to thank you guys, and I want to ask. Let's start with Clark. Where can the 12 old Jewish ladies find you? Social media, websites.
Sure.
What do you have going on?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook under my name. I've been on Twitter long enough where I got my own name, so it's at Clark Brooks on Twitter. And then I have a website, clarkbrooks.com, which sadly lists a whole bunch of dates that aren't going to happen and didn't happen. So I just lost a weekend with Lynn Coplitz last week, and I'm just getting over the depression of that. So they can go there and see all. but there's videos and stuff there. There's fun stuff there. So, and thanks for plugging that.
Great, and that's okay. So Twitter, Instagram also.
Oh yeah, Instagram too. I'm Clark Brooks, like with a number there, but you can find me though.
But you're right. You'll know he's the only Clark Brooks that looks like this guy.
Yeah, it looks like this guy. Yeah.
Weezy, how about you? What's going on, and where can we find you if we needed to?
Well, for the Jewish ladies, I just want you to know that right now I'm offering a discount, so please definitely give me a call. In South LA, we call it tricking, so I'll be tricking. Bigg Weezy is BIGGWEEZY. So on Instagram, you can find my comedy page at I Am Bigg Weezy, and then you can find another page in which I just post stupid crap and sometimes opinions, which is Bigg Weezy. And Facebook Bigg Weezy or Wayne Bigg Weezy Brown is my personal page, and Twitter Bigg Weezy. I think there's an extra G in there because unlike Clark, I didn't get there early enough to get Bigg Weezy. I'm not an original tweeter. Before they even could figure out what to call it, it was always Twitter
and OT.
Yeah, an OT.
Yeah.
And let me see, what else am I on? And that's really about it. Just for people, the ladies, that it's on their mind. People are always wondering. I'm just going to put it out there. It's 479 pounds, and that's about it. Well, see, Clark was like, "Damn, I thought it was only 350. I thought he only weighed 350."
That's what I had written down. So. Hey, can I ask you guys a question? And Steven, you can obviously choose to make this part of the show or not. It's your show, obviously. But
yeah.
But how do you guys think comedy comes back from this? Because, first of all, when comedy does come back, is there anything else to talk about? I mean, talk about a relatable experience where literally everybody in the world is going through the same thing. So how do you not talk about the coronavirus? But then how do you talk about the coronavirus with a fresh take? Is there a fresh take to be had on this at this point? Because I don't know that there is.
No, I mean, if you're gonna either talk about it or you're not gonna talk about it. But I think things are gonna get back to normal, and I do think things are gonna get back to normal, and it will be we will have our normal complaints and maladies and privileged anger. And this will start to, the curve will flatten. People will get over it. I mean, we got over the fucking Spanish flu, and we had people telling jokes. So it'll get back to normal. But unless you have a absolutely hysterical observation about coronavirus, I wouldn't try to force one. I will mention Clark Brooks's incredibly intuitive observation. I'm going to plagiarize him and quote him now about there is no Democrats and Republicans are like the Red Sox and the Yankees. Red Sox, Yankees. Red Sox, sometimes they play for the Yankees. Yankees, sometimes they play for the Red Sox.
They'll
Babe
switch
Ruth,
sides.
Roger Clemens.
They'll switch sides for money, and the fans are far more invested in what they do than the actual players are.
The fans are the ones who are at each other's throats.
Right.
Yeah.
Trump is not a Yankee or a Red Sox. Trump is the drunk fan who got out on the field, and he's running around on the field with his shirt off, swinging it over his head. And everybody at the game is pissed off because the game can't start until security gets a hold of that motherfucker.
Except for people who love watching that, though.
Except for his friends who think it's the greatest thing they've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I hate the fact that the director won't put it on TV.
Yeah.
Right? They switch to
They go to commercial break, Weezy.
Everyone in the stadium, everyone in the broadcast booth, everyone's watching this shit except the people who should be, us at home.
We're watching it now, unfortunately.
And then I hate when they say, "Oh my God, that was a great tackle, motherfucker! Show us the tackle."
Go to YouTube. You can find those clips. The fans shoot those. And
Clark saw a lot of those Clark saw a lot of that shit, especially in minor league ball.
Yeah.
I know we have to wrap it up, but I mean, Clark, I could see it right now, man. You're in a bar, right? You know, you're sitting there, you're sipping your drink, you look over, she's looking at you, and you're looking at her, and then you just kind of sashay over to her, Clark, and you're like, you know, I guard that funny-looking motherfucker in Philadelphia that sticks his tongue out, rides the four-wheeler, and boom, next thing you know, you're hooked up, man. I mean, that's an incredible job.
It's impossible for the ladies to resist that. So.
Well, we've had a lot of irresistible male sexual energy on this show, and I'm sure many of you will be drawn to this. This is really truly like Rodney Dangerfield at a sauna. So, people, thank you for joining us. My guests Clark Brooks and Big Weezy from different sides of the country, and we'll see you guys in a week or two. Everybody, be safe. Wash your hands.
Nick, peace.
Peace.